Still monitors. Good morning, everybody. I am your Kingdom Exchequer, Gwen Free. I'd like to start this off by, of course, putting my information. If you are not already part of the Facebook Exchequer page, please join on there. I do try to upload my slideshows up there. That way, if you have questions later on, you can always come back and reference it. Currently, my Kingdom Deputy Exchequer is Sean, our former Kingdom Exchequer, and he's been doing a wonderful job. And of course, he will be taking over to teach the forms class later on today, and I very much appreciate him. At this time, I am currently looking to recruit a new Deputy Exchequer. Please note that the way we are setting this up is that you will serve for a year as the Deputy Exchequer, learning the information, learning the behind the scenes, attending meetings with me, so you know what to do, in the hopes that after that year, you're willing to step up as Kingdom Exchequer. If you're interested, please reach out to me via the Kingdom Exchequer email. And who this class for is? Pretty much anybody who is performing the Office of Exchequer, Seneschals, landed baron and baronesses, the current and incoming royals, and financial committee members. They have to take this class. If you have financial committee members who have not taken the warranting class, you need to get them into it. We are recording this, and hopefully this will be posted up on our YouTube page, so they can always sit and watch this. So basically, the hierarchy of how policy happens: corpora is the first step, the second step is kingdom, and then the individual brand's financial policy. If your group is having an event for the kingdom financial policy is the precedent. I just wanted to state that right then and there. I've also got a little slide for our current open positions. My NMR deputy is open, my training deputy is open, Doomsday is open, and Kingdom Exchequer ER deputy is open. So those 4 positions are open. If you're interested, would like more information, please reach out to me. I'll happily explain what the jobs are. Basically, in regards to how this follows is the hierarchy. We have our corporate treasurer, who is a member of the board. Then we have the society exchequer. They work in tandem with each other a whole lot. Under the exchequer, we have the NMR deputy and their PayPal deputy. The society NMR deputy, most of you know, it is currently Astrid. I don't know who the society PayPal deputy is off the top of my head. And then, of course, you have your Kingdom Exchequers, and then our deputies, and then it rolls into the individual groups. Everything you can need is available on sca.org or ansteorra.org. There's also a SharePoint, and I don't have that link ready just yet, and I will get that put on for next roundtable. But if you have questions, you can't find something, please feel free to reach out to your regionals or reach out to me, and I'm happy to find the necessary information and send it to you or give you the link. Please reach out to me via Kingdom Exchequer email. That is official. I try to respond within 48 hours. Sometimes I mentally go, oh, I've done that and moved on, and I hadn't responded because I got interrupted. So please give me a little grace there, because like I said, I know what my answers are. I formulate it in my head, and I go to type it, and somebody calls me, and I get distracted and forget to go back. I don't answer calls during my work hours of Monday through Friday from 8 to 5, but you can text me, and if I'm available, I will respond. And no calls after 10 p.m., please, unless somebody's died. I'm just going to say that. Anything after 10 p.m. will give me a heart attack, because I think somebody's died. But I do prefer text is perfectly acceptable, but please be aware that sometimes the conversation is convoluted, and I will call you back because I can't respond in an easy response in text. You can reach me via Facebook. It's under Patricia Flynn. I'm probably friends with a friend of yours, so just send me the friend request and I'll accept it. Please, 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 please communicate. Communicate to your upline. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say this to you. I will never be angry at you because things have gotten hard. We have our mundane life, we have crises that happen, we have families that happen. Please just communicate. That's all I ask. I will fight for you every ounce if I know what's going on. If I don't know what's going on, I can't do anything. I'm just assuming you've decided not to do this office or something. So please just communicate. And my regionals should have the same stance. If they don't, please reach out to me and I will have a talk with them. But just understand to communicate. That's all I ask. If you're running late, you're having a problem, please ask. Sometimes me and Sean bounce off of each other all the time because sometimes it's just clarification or communication or, hey, am I remembering this right or am I thinking this is right? Do not be afraid to talk to someone. Talk to me, talk to Sean, talk to Astrid. We're 3 Exchequers that are always happy to talk of the Exchequery. I always assume the best intentions from people. Please assume the same thing. If somebody sends you something and it's not pleasant, just assume they're having a bad day and just take it with a little grace. My first response is, are you okay? That email was a little harsh. Please always assume the best. Stay flexible. Be willing to help. I am here to help you be successful. And if I request something from you, there is a reason for it. If you want to know the reason, I'm happy to explain what the reason is. The current financial policy has been approved by the BOD as of November 18th, 2025. The current Kingdom financial policy that we still have active was approved back in 2018. I'm in the middle of updating the policy so we can get that sent over to the review it with the financial committee, then send it up to the board for review. Once that happens, it will be pushed out onto the Facebook, not the Facebook page, the SCA Ansteorra.org page, our page, so people can see it. And they actually do post all the Kingdom financial policies on SCA.org. I should note that, but I will make sure that it is posted there so you can see it and you will be sent a copy so you know what it is. And here is the fun part. All financial policies have to be reviewed up on your upline. So all your financial policies for individual groups must come to me to be assigned and approved. Just like societies goes up to them, I have to sign off on yours. That is something that has not been done. I want to make sure that we are doing it. So if you're working on yours, that's great. Work on it. Until Kingdoms is done, don't sweat it if it's not been updated. If you need something emergently amended because of an event or something, send it to me. I'll approve it. I'll send it back to you or let you know you can't do it because of what's going on in Kingdom policy. So, per society, for branches that are associated with affiliate organizations, they don't have financial reporting requirements, the society. Per our Kingdom financial policy, you are required to report monthly. The required elements per Kingdom financial policy, you must have it completed, it must be balanced, and it must be signed. Bank statements should be initialed and signed by the Seneschal, as well as the Exchequer. It's not on here, but that's going to be added. But I'm just going to state that now. And you should have your electronic ledger, which is already part of the list of the new report. So we can kind of skip that. And you must have notes about any variances currently in effect listed. I don't know if, Sean, I know you're here. Do we have a spot on the new form to note variances?
For the new ledger form?
Yes.
No, there is not a spot in there for variances.
Okay. Pardon me for a moment while I make a note. You need to be sending in your financial end of year financial policy or end of year financials need to be sent in by the deadline. Right now, what is required, what we call doomsday, is required by March 31st. So that means if we don't have your end of year financials, we don't get them done in time. So please, please, please get them done by the end of January, get them sent in, get them submitted so Doomsday can get started on it. Your financial statements consist of your balance sheet and your income statements that must be available to the public at least annually. You can publish in the newsletter, or you can distribute to your membership in other forms. You can make a printed copy and hand it out at a meeting. Your event reports are due within 10 business days after the event closes, along with the NMR and the profit splits. Now, let's be honest, you're going to mail a check. It's not going to be there in 10 days. But you should have what the check number is and the profit split checks. Send that in the email when you send in your event report. If there's a problem, communicate it. If you're going to be late, communicate it. This is important. This is where that information on communication happens. Your other reports, you need to send to your regionals. Your branch budgets are due by the end of November. Your financial policy is every other July 31st, but because of society just doing theirs and my first half of this year being crazy, we're going to extend that this is a verbal confirmation you are extended on your financial policy. If you're late reporting, again, notify. Let your upline know. They can put notes on their report. So when I look at their report, I know that, oh, you called, you've had a family emergency, you're going to be late. We understand it happens. But honestly, ladies and gentlemen, your bank statements usually come out within the first 5 to 10 days of the month. There's no reason, if you don't have a whole lot going on, for you not to just turn around and get that done. If you at least send us the form without the signature, you've made due diligence, and you were just waiting for, and you can say, here's the report, waiting on our meeting on the 15th, or whatever day it happens, to get the signatures. Also remember to do electronically. To be an exchequer, you must be paid. And when you become an exchequer, you must have both your legal identification and your membership when applying for a warrant. You should all have a warranted ER deputy. This is important just in case of emergencies. All your bank accounts must have of the branches must have a warranted exchequer as one of the signatories. And I'm going to make sure we note this. You must have a regional deputy of the kingdom as one of the deputies, or the kingdom exchequer. I'm more than happy to travel. I have flexibility with my job where I can work remotely. I can travel and be somewhere to become a signatory on the bank account. And all the deputies must be warranted. And it includes, but does not limit it to, your inventory officers, your regalia ministers, and your quartermasters. This also includes anybody who is going to drive a trailer, and we'll get into that a little later. And I like this, your segregation of duties. You can't have one person be responsible for everything. That includes writing the checks, balancing bank statements, and deciding on disbursements of funds. That is why we have 2 signatories. Most people usually do the exchequer and the seneschal. That is completely acceptable. Your branch financial committee oversees the management of the assets, approval of disbursements, and the reporting. If you're writing a check to somebody who is a family member of yours, you must have it signed by unrelated parties. Now, I'm going to specify this. COVID showed us that sometimes we have to be a little flexible on that rule, but in general, that is not the rule. If it is for a family member, for yourself, you cannot be a signer on that check. This is for legal reasons. If you have a conflict of interest regarding a financial decision, please step away. This is a case of ask your ER deputy to step in and act as your vote. We've done this before. please don't be afraid to do that. Ask your ER deputy, say, hey, I need you to be at this meeting because there's something that I need you to act as the office of the exchequer and make that vote, and make sure it's noted in the notes that it was the ER deputy who voted for that vote. They basically took your vote, or you just abstain. You cannot hold more than one office at a time without written approval from your superiors. And you cannot be a seneschal and an exchequer at the same time. Did you guys lose my sound for a second? Okay.
Hey, so I'm not an exchequer, but if I were, if I were to have my, like, I have a conflict of interest for this thing, and then I have my ER deputy show up to that meeting and vote instead of me, should I not be at that meeting entirely?
No, you should
Okay.
be at that meeting.
Okay, cool.
When you get to that action item, it's like, okay, we're going to talk about, it's an event bid. You basically say, we're about to send the event bid. I'm handing it over to my ER deputy to handle this. So they know you're handling it, and you're just, you're just going to sit there quietly. You're not going to, if they ask you questions, of course, about the event bid, be happy to answer, but
Sure, of course.
Just sit there quietly. Make sure your ER deputy knows they need to ask for a vote. Take the vote, and whatever is decided, and make sure that is clearly noted in your financial meeting minutes that you stepped up, the ER stepped in to cover that. So does that make sense? You don't have to leave, because you've got to be there for the rest of it usually, because there's usually more than one item. You need to be
cool.
there.
Thank you so much.
You're quite welcome. You don't commingle money with you or your business. You just, it should all flow through the group's bank account. This is bad. Don't do it. It's very short and sweet. You have to have oversight of the non-cash assets, and that is why you should have an appropriate deputy to handle that, a chamberlain, a quartermaster, whatever name you choose to use, the group chooses to use. Basically, at the kingdom level, we have to have approval. Within groups, we let the groups decide, I'm going to have this person as my deputy to be the control of assets. They have to take the financial warranting committee, warranting policy class, and that's it. Basically, all deputies and basically every group's person is considered a deputy, can be appointed, directed, or removed by the exchequer to which they report. It means that all my deputies that report to me, I can appoint, remove, and be directed what to do. And regionals can come to me and ask me to do that. You will always be, if you are removed from your office, it will always come from the Kingdom Exchequer to know that it has gone up the chain. You have to have a official government recognized banking account. Basically, it's usually one that has I can't remember what the acronym is they use, but they insure it up to $100,000 usually. This is just naming conventions. It should always be, your group's name dash Society for Creative and Actors Inc. or SCA Inc. dash the name of the group. This is one of those things, and it must be under. Sorry about that. My watch goes off occasionally. All bank accounts will be opened via the SCA federal ID number, which is the 94-169-8556. You will submit a bank change request form for either a new or a change. You will send it up to me. I will review it. Sometimes I'll send it back because you don't have a regional deputy. And then I send it up to society, and then they will send you a letter that you can provide to the bank. This is regarding banks that are outside of the U.S. Basically, they're saying that banking procedures must be in compliance with local government law. It really doesn't apply to us, so we just kind of skim over it. This is basically talking about how you submit new financial account requests. It goes up the chain. It comes up to Kingdom. Kingdom does my part. Goes up to Society. Society will determine on it and then approve it for opening new accounts. Basically, you must be an approved and valid branch of the SCA to be able to open a bank account and have independent monetary accounts. I like this one. Proposed branches who have not received official approved status must have their funds retained in another SCA bank account. These funds may be held as a designated funds by a designated branch upon approval by the Kingdom Exchequer of the proposed branch is a Kingdom, the Society Exchequer. Basically, it's saying any new groups. So perfect example for us, when Vinheim was waiting for approval, any funds they had was held by Kingdom, and when they became approved, we gave them a check so they could deposit it and create their own new bank account. Changes to existing financial accounts must be reported to the Society Exchequer and Treasurer. Again, this is the paperwork going upstream. Any changes needs to go up. Change of signatories goes up. Removing people goes up. Annuities and so if you don't have enough money to open a bank account, because some banks have a minimum requirement, which is usually pretty low, it's like some are 10, some are 50, you can have that designated in another account. And I love this. You must provide copies of your reconciled bank statements every month to your Seneschal, and then up on your upline in our Kingdom. So it would go to the regional or the Kingdom Exchequer. Basically, bank statements must be made available to the Exchequer and the Seneschal. Additional signatories may be granted access. Branches may use online bank statements. I think that's very relevant. The less trees we kill, the better. 2 signatures are required on all checks. Electronic authorizations or a written authorization from the majority of the branch financial committee are required for all types of electronic transfers, including but not limited to EFT, ACH, and wire transfers. So if you are doing your ACH to send your money up to Kingdom, you're going to send your NMR up to us electronically. I'm going to cover this briefly. The policy is make sure financial committee has approved that you can do ACH, EFT, wire transfers, and make sure they're aware of any fees associated with this from the bank. Some banks charge you, some banks don't. If that's approved, then when you want to send it, you can take the NMR and send the end of that report to the Seneschal. I'm going to use them as an example. Say, I'm approving this to go send an ACH up to Kingdom for $350, whatever it is, for our NMR fees. They can reply, Seneschal approves, and send it back. You want to keep that documentation. That is verification that 2 of you approved that electronic transfer. Transfers between entity bank accounts may be made by the Chancellor of the Exchequer without additional authorization. Basically, that means I can take money. If you have a checking and a savings account, you don't have to get authorization. Like your checking account needs money, but you've got money in savings, you can move money over without authorization. I'm going to say this, best practice, get the authorization. Let's make sure the Seneschal knows. That way, it is a CYA, cover your hiney, and you feel safer. That is the best practice regarding any financial situation. Always have a secondary authorization. That way, there's no question of you having made a decision on your own. You can get money from other bank society approved bank accounts, i.e. another group's out, in lieu of cash or checks with the appropriate documentation. There is a transfer form that we send when we send ACH. We do an ACH wire transfer or EFT. If you do not have it, I have it. In fact, I created it, or they created it. No, I created it. It's a fillable PDF. I always send that to anyone when I send them money. So, and I'm going to update the form because we need to fix that. There's something on there, a missing item. All signatories on SCA bank accounts must be members in paid good standing of the SCA. So if your signatories are, their membership is going to expire in the next 60 days, remind them to get that taken care of. They need to be in good standing. They need to make sure it's paid. I hate that it's 60 days, but if you remind them in 60 days, they usually remember in 30. You must have at least 4 paid members on your account. Again, representative one level above you. It can be the regional, it can be your kingdom exchequer, but it must be a society level on above you. So in this case, for individual groups, it's regional or kingdom. It could be a seneschal, the central regional seneschal. I have an example of that happened, and I've confirmed this with society. This is acceptable because they're local to the group, and it's just easy to have them on there. The exchequer needs to be on there. Your ER deputy should be on there. Your seneschal be on there, and maybe you need a signatory because you and the seneschal live on opposite sides of the city from each other, and you need a regional seneschal. I explained this that because kingdom, we are such a big kingdom. My ER deputy is over an hour and a half away. I have a signatory that lives 10 minutes away from me. So this is a case of you can have additional, but you have to have yourself, your ER, the seneschal, a regional. So you end up with 5. They say 4, but we really push for 5. And I'll put that note on our financial policy. 5. At least 5. 4, if you and the seneschal are close together, then it doesn't matter. So it is 4 reality. Signatories on the same account are prohibited from living together or sharing the same address and cannot be immediately related. I think that's very self-explanatory. You need to have at least a minimum 3 signatories on your card. You can't update your signature card if you're going to expire within 60 days. Sovereigns, consorts, and heirs of the kingdom are not allowed to become a new signatory on a kingdom, branch, or other account while they hold that status. If they are current signatories, they must be removed immediately. That's Kingdom Financial Policy. I'm going to also add on to that because it is not written. If you are a landed B&B, Baron and Baroness, you cannot be a signatory on the bank account and must be removed. That is going into the new financial policy. Please take note. If you're the check is being written to somebody and you're a signer on the account, they cannot sign the check. Again, COVID was the one exceptional time. Please don't do it as general rule. You must maintain your electronic records. You should have 2 copies. If you're doing it electronically, have 2 copies. You can have an external hard drive. You can put it on your Google email drive. Must have 2 copies. If you have paper copies, also make sure you have an electronic copy. Your records must reconcile to the bank statements you received. Your reconciliation should happen at least monthly. And again, they must be signed by the prayer in the case of the exchequer and the reviewer, which is usually your seneschal. So that's why your signatory is required on the bank statement, because you should have reviewed it. And you must retain it for 7 full years. All your records may be retained for 7 full years. We are in 2026. So you should have 25, 24, 23, 22, 21, 20, and 2019. Anything previous to 2019, you do not need to keep. Why is it only 7 years? That is how many years the IRS can come back and request information. What is financial records? Any accounting software that you have and associated data, minutes from financial meetings, documentation of the financial committee decisions, monthly bank reconciliations and statements, communications related to the business of the Exchequer, annual budgets, and financial reports. All assets that your group has and held in the name of the SCA must be managed by the Financial Committee. Financial Committee must be paid members of the SCA. You must have a minimum of 3 voting members. A simple majority is the minimum requirement for approval of all actions. The Financial Committees must include the following officers as members, but are not limited to your Exchequer, your Seneschal. Now here's a fun one. Financial Committee. A Financial Committee should be comprised of one of the following: a designated list of group officers, including the Seneschal and Exchequer, and the Seneschal, Exchequer, and all paid members in good standing present at a business meeting. So when you have those meetings, they should all be there. I love this. The sovereign consorts and heirs are to have a composite vote. So in the case of the crown, the king and the queen have one vote between the two of them. You can say they each have a half. Usually what happens is one of them will just cast the vote for both of them. For kingdom and principality financial committees with 5 or more voting members, heirs may have a composite vote separate from the sovereign and consort. Again, if you have financial interest in the, a decision, you must recuse yourself. You must attend a financial policy class within 90 days of joining the committee. Again, we record this and we have it up on the SCA YouTube page, the SCA Ansteorra YouTube page. It's too early for me. So you can take it. You do not have to be on the financial committee to be an account signatory. That's just simply put, if you're an account signatory, it just means you are a member in good standing. You are just a signer on the bank account for ease and convenience for the 2-person authorization. If you are just a signatory on a bank account, don't just sign a check because it's handed to you. Ask the question, what is this for? Who is this going to? What's the backup? Do you have backup? Your financial committees must include 3 members, the Seneschal, Exchequer, any officers and nobles, and any potential others. Right now, this is a current financial committee, the Kingdom Financial Policy. I will be changing that. I will require baronies to have 5 members. It will exist of the Seneschal, the Exchequer, the 1 vote for the nobles, and then 2 other paid members of the SCA. They can be officers or not, but I will require baronies to have 5. Smaller groups, I know it's hard enough getting people into offices. 3 is fine. The Financial Committee must authorize all withdrawals of funds from branch accounts via the advanced completion of a financial disbursement form, i.e. the check request form. I really wish they would just use plain language there. 30 days for approval is standard approval for anything that the Financial Committee must vote on. Meeting minutes and emails are filed with the Kingdom Exchequer. This is for the Kingdom Financial Committee. The Financial Committee must meet twice a year to end an event and can respond in the interim by email. Meetings not via online conference services, i.e. Skype, may supplement but not replace in-person meetings. So there should be at least, for the Kingdom, we should have at least 1 in-person meeting with the crowns during their reigns. Basically, the Kingdom Financial Policy, the budget needs to be, must submit their requests for their financial budget by the October 1st for the new year. The Kingdom Exchequer must prepare the annual budget, and the Financial Committee will approve the final budget, and then the summary page will be published in the Kingdom newsletter. and it says February, which is lovely, by February. You must have a written financial policy. This must be approved by the financial committee and then sent up to me for approval. And it must come up to me, not the regionals. It comes up to Kingdom. And if you do not have a financial policy, you default to Kingdom, and Kingdom's default. And that is why, as I've done these slides, you'll have seen SFP, which is Society Financial Policy, in KFP, Kingdom Financial Policy. There is a difference. And they must at a minimum include the composition of your financial committee, the terms of your financial committee, the timeframes and methods for meetings. You must do it within 30 days, whatever. Timeframes and methods for action approved under normal circumstances and in emergencies. You must have listed what you're going to do for normal circumstances, and if there's an emergency, like something came up last minute before the event, you need to do it, 24-hour. I like you to have a little more than 24-hour, prefer 48-hour notice for people so they can make sure they can attend. Reporting requirements and schedule reports to the branch administration. Your timeframes and methods for reviewing and revision of your financial policy. Methods for controlling your cash receipts. Again, this can all reference Kingdom policy or society policy. If Kingdom doesn't have a stricter policy than society, you can reference society policy. Policies regarding event admission charges, refunds, or complimentary passes. I'm going to make this statement now. Do not, and we get into complimentary passes a little later on, but the requirement by society is that you cannot give a complimentary pass to a set group of people that is not available to a large group of people. Like, you can give a complimentary pass to your B&Bs and things like that, but you can't. It's a very fuzzy gray area with these comp passes. And I just had a request, and this is a good example of a group who is having their 50th year anniversary of their group, and they would like to comp the past B&Bs to their event. In order to do so, they must write up a variance request, and it must come up to Kingdom, and I have to approve it. So if there's a question about complimentary passes and you're not sure, please send it up your upline to your regional or to myself. I know a hand just went up. Go ahead, Sean.
So in the chat, I just put out what society sent out this morning for the non-member registration waivers.
It's in here later. It's coming up next.
Okay.
It's coming up next. I highlighted it. Let's go into that. Boop. It has been decided non-member registrations may not be waived, with the exception of disability service providers. Disability service providers who are attending solely to provide disability-related services will not be charged a registration fee. The registration fee waiver does not extend to food and lodging. If there is a feast or a fee for where they're staying, that is not waived. But a disability-related service provider site fee can be waived. So that is very important to understand and know. Non-members cannot be waived, cannot be comped. So if they're your champion is not a member, they still have to pay the site fee. Written policy on refunds must be included. You must have a written policy of how the refunds are done. And I'm going to state this and state this strongly. You cannot provide a refund out of your your cash at the event. It must be sent by check. You have to have your policy about your asset, basically your inventory, your assets, any pavilions, trailers, regalia, all that, and control of the inventory. You should have your policy on sales tax. If any of the Kingdom is obligated to pay sales tax, the Kingdom of Ansteorra, because we are under the SCA tax ID and we are a nonprofit, we do not have to pay sales tax. I made sure we have a sales tax exemption certificate. I have it. If you need it, let me know. I will send it to you. Sure. This non-member registration fees may not be waived with the exception of disability. You're asking if it's just the NMR fee or if it's the registration fee, the site fee.
Yes.
You know, that's a good question. I took it to mean the membership is not at all. I will clarify that and get a final answer.
Thank you.
Is that right? Where notes?
If I may, it may be that if you don't have to, if you're not paying a site fee, then you're not having to pay the NMR fee.
No. It's saying you have to pay the NMR
Well,
at the very least.
disability
If-
person, not person, but service.
The service disability person does not have to pay a registration fee, does not have to pay a site fee.
Right.
I'm gonna get very confused because they used registration fee, and I'm gonna say, are you talking about site fee or are you talking about the NMR fee? Because non-member registration, it's like that's a clarification item we need to have.
An email went out this morning.
That was for me, and yes, and it says the exact same thing.
Okay. I was going to say, I assume that was under ADA compliance, because under the ADA law, we are not allowed to charge registration fees, including NMR,
Mhm.
because that would be against federal law. That was what I read that as.
And that's how I read it as well.
Okay.
I'm going to get but like I said, because they're talking about ADA, I want to clarify with her, are you talking about just NMR fees or are you talking about NMR and site? Does that make sense? Because for some people, you can comp somebody and waive their site fee, but they still have to pay NMR. Does that make sense? And I mean, that's what the way I've
Since
understood it.
when?
What? That
Pardon the interruption.
sorry.
This is Fastrada. I think it falls along the same lines as, for instance, when you have a non-member youth who is not being charged registration fees, we also don't charge them NMR fees. They just don't pay anything.
Right.
So if a youth is not being charged, then they don't get charged NMR fees for being a non-member youth. So I would assume it's the same thing. If you're not charging someone as a disability service provider, then we would not charge them NMR fees either.
that is not the question here. If they're a disability service provider, they are not charged flat out. That one I will say flat out, if they are a disability service provider. The question is if they are a non-member, are they just talking about registration fees or site fees?
Hey,
Or both?
Trish,
Yeah.
under ADA laws, they can't be charged membership fees if they're the disability help person. So they can't be charged NMR because we can't charge them for membership.
I've already stated that. If they are disability, they do not get charged fees at all.
No,
You get a
no,
middleman.
membership to the SCA. They can't be charged membership if they're coming in as,
But they're,
a
and they're
help.
saying here that they're not charging them, will not be charged a registration fee. And I want clarification on what they mean by registration fee, because are you, that's the problem and nuances with legal verbiage. And that's what I'm saying here, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get a very clear definition of what they mean by registration fees in this form. Do they mean just the NMR, non-member registration fee, or do they mean site fee as a whole? As far as I'm reading it, disability service related do not need to pay because they are coming to provide a service. They are not there necessarily for funsies. Yes, that is the perfect way to sum it. They're not there for fun. Yeah, they might have some fun and that's okay because it's just on top of it, but they're working.
right, but I'm saying they can't charge them SCA membership fees. Therefore, we cannot charge them NMR because they cannot.
Exactly. That's
yeah.
if they're disability related service provider, you don't charge them any kind of fee, beginning, middle, and end. They would be considered comped. And I will, like I said, I want to very much clarify that non-member registration fees may not be waived with exception of disability. Are you, because again, it's like, are you saying that non-members NMR doesn't get, they still have to pay? And I'm talking other NMR. I'm not talking about disability. I'm talking about other NMR. I'm talking about like your champion doesn't have a membership. Do they still have to just pay NMR, or do they have to pay site on top of that as well? Do you understand the difference? Is everybody clear on what I'm trying to get clarification on? Disabilities are, you
Yeah,
don't charge them a fee. We're talking about
non
other
members.
non-members that don't have anything to do with being a service provider.
Because I was always under the impression that if you didn't have to pay a site fee for whatever reason, you would not have to pay an
NMRP.
yeah.
Like I
Because
said, I would like to get the clarification on that, because I think
perfect, yeah.
I
yeah.
think they're putting, and I'm like I said, the word registration is
Yeah,
where you
it's-
cause confusion. Are you talking about the NMR? Are you talking about registration? Because it's site registration. We
Yeah.
just call it a site fee. It's a site. So any other event is like, oh, I got to register. I'm registered. You're paying the fee to get in. So I want clarification what they mean by this legally, because this is, it's your when you use verbiage, I'm going to state this right now until I say otherwise, until I get clarification. And non-members have to pay site fee and their NMR. You cannot comp them until I can get clarification. We don't have a whole lot of events coming on. I'll get a clarification within the week. Nobody's going to have an event between now and then.
Anyway.
So yeah, it's very,
Sorry about that.
no, it's a
Yeah,
very good
off on the-
clarification, and it didn't quite ping for me. So I want to get clarification.
Perfect. Thank you
Um,
very much.
Yes, because it didn't, like I said, sometimes it doesn't click, but later on my brain, I'll be taking a bath and I'll be thinking about it and it'll come up. But thank you all for wanting the clarification. Yes. So if anybody's providing disability service providers, don't pay a site fee. That includes, your service animals, because we never charge them anyhow. You must have a written policy on your refunds. Again, that should be done by check. It should never be done out of the gate cash box, ever. Never. You're asking about, okay, policy on sales tax. And we were talking about sales tax when we backed up. So the Society of the SCA is registered with the state of Texas. I don't know about the state of Oklahoma. I can't remember. But I know Texas does not, we don't have to pay sales tax. We do have a sales tax resale certificate because of the tax ID and our status with the IRS. So we don't have to pay sales tax. If any group wants that, I will happily give you the form and you can use it to get sales tax removed from anything that you're purchasing. Any interkingdom events that are separate entities must have a financial committee, which includes an exchequer who's warrant deputy of the Society, Chancellor of the Exchequer. Gulf Force has their own exchequer. Basically, interkingdom events are defined as any event that has a standard money distribution to another kingdom's accounts based on calculation method other than or in addition to volunteer hours, and has the event administration either as perpetual independent event staff or changes between kingdoms on a standard rotation. We all know Gulf Wars. We know how that happens. They have their own financial policy that must be approved. And they must include the standard distribution calculation in any event-specific financial policies. So if, per se, War of the Rams became a interkingdom event, a truly interkingdom event with us in Glen Aubin, they would have to set up, it would have to be set up with its own separate financial policy. And if its own exchequer and all of that, it'd be a lot of work. I love this. Financial policy goes up to Society Exchequer, and they approve kingdoms, they interkingdom events, and Laurel office has their own financial policy. and they must be presented every 2 years. So every 2 years, you should be reviewing it. It might not change. It seems like we changed formatting, but that's about it. But it has to go up and be approved again every 2 years. Our kingdom, the interkingdom events and the lower office ones are approved by the board of the directors as an addendum, are also approved by the board of directors, which is fun. I can kingdom exchequers may require financial policies for inter-kingdom events. If there's a inter-kingdom event that requires it, a good example of that was Braggartsworth had its own separate financial policy. So those are available. Again, the policy will be reviewed when the Exchequer office changes, when society financial planner requires, or every 2 years. So it's subject to change quite consistently. So your financial committee must approve your budget at least 30 days in advance of the new year. So basically, worst case scenario, you want to make sure your financial committee votes on your annual and event budgets by the end of November, because our fiscal year starts on January 1. Financial committee must approve unbudgeted expenditures. Emergency situations are handled on a case-by-case basis according to the entity's financial policy. Unbudgeted expenditures, yes, any unbudgeted expenditures. If you are budgeted for, this is a case of a certain amount, and it is going to go over that, immediately take it to your financial committee. Immediately take it to your financial committee and get it authorized, because nothing upsets an exchequer, and you're one of them, than having somebody going, oh, we budgeted $500 and their bill is now for $700. What happened? And we all know prices have gone up. They got it quoted now, and it's 6 months later, and things change. So please be aware of that. And we've it's not a big deal to approve an increase in the budget, even though you budgeted back in November. Things have changed because we've all seen it happen. Costs have gone up, and nobody can predict that. I always tell people, when in doubt, quote for 10% more than what you're asking for. Just a little side note. Nobody has the authority to authorize a payment that does not support our not tax exempt status. Hang on just a second. I got to respond to this. The person who keeps calling me. There we go. When in doubt, talk to your upline. You must have receipts for all reported expenses. I tell people this is very true. You cannot over document something. When I was in a group office, I literally would I would take a photo of the check and a photo of my receipt and my check request form, and I had I had a copy of the actual check that was written with the signatories on it. You cannot over document. Make sure you have plenty of documentation. But you must have documentation. Somebody can't tell you, oh, I have a receipt for $13.42. Can you write me a check? It's like, I need a receipt. You must request the receipt and the check request. Here's the other thing. If somebody's asking for expense reimbursement, they can either expense reimbursement via cash, the gas receipts, or the gas receipts. Pardon me for a minute. I got interrupted. My brain skipped. So if somebody is asking for reimbursement, they can do cash, the gas receipts, or they can do a mileage reimbursement for the miles that they've driven. So it is one or the other, and the mileage must be listed out on the reimbursement form. that you have. And if you don't have one, ask me, I'll provide you with one. But you must have some kind of document that this is what was requested, this is what reimbursed. The mileage, if you need to know what the mileage for a nonprofit mileage reimbursement, just Google nonprofit mileage reimbursement. I kid you not, it will pop up. If you don't know, ask me, I'll get the answer for sure. Certain. So basically, you cannot fund meetings or events that are closed to the general populace. Basically, the SCA is required. Everything that you do must be done for our nonprofit status to facilitate our IRS nonprofit status. So having something, the SCA funds used for something that only is advantageous for a small group of people is not approved. So you can't have oh, we're going to have our financial meeting and we're going to go out to dinner and the group's going to pay for it. That is not allowed. So that's very specific. And that is a very specific, and be very careful about these. Again, they can grant variances on the policy on a case-by-case basis, but they are going to check to make sure we are not in violation with the IRS. So please do not think that this is something you can do. And you need to have that in written. You need to send in a written request. And you need to send it in 7 days prior to the event. And you should let them know when you're going to do that. I think so they know. And can approve it in a timely fashion. Now we go into special purpose and dedicated funds. Love this thing. We're at 11 o'clock. We're not done. We are not done. Hello? We're at 11 o'clock and we're not done. Yeah. Oh, I have more than 15 minutes left. I'm gonna have Sean. Like I said, I've decided to look. Sean, how long do you think your class is gonna run? I think you're gonna need the entire hour, aren't you?
Honestly, as long as if I can get through it without questions, and we can have people just write down their questions for the Exchequer meet and greet time, I can get through it fairly quickly.
Okay. So are you okay with me running over? Because I can try to wrap this up fairly quickly.
As long as I have at least 30 minutes to get through the slides, we should be able to get through.
I should be able to get through this in 30 minutes because we had a lot of time last time. It probably won't. I don't know if it'll be 15.
Let's see what we can do.
Okay. We're going to run over. So we'll keep recording. Sean, thank you. County records must support segregation of funds by purpose. You basically need to specify what the purpose is for, when it expires, and it cannot be no longer than 2 years. And then what happens to the funds once it's once that time is expired? Does it return back to the person who donated it for specific funds, or does it get if it goes to a secondary purpose, or does it move into a then it moves into the general fund? You have to keep sufficient money. Sufficient reserves must exist to fund any outstanding liability. You must always have a positive bank balance. You should not go negative. Basically, I love this. It's like basically you should make sure you have enough cash reserves in case you have a major event and you can't, it goes negative. You do not make any money. Donations earmarked for a purpose contrary to our tax exempt status or found untenable or undesirable must be declined by the Financial Committee. We do not accept vehicle donations. They have to have dedicated funds must have a primary, secondary purpose established and set up. The final destination of all dedicated funds is the general fund. Basically, what can happen is that, and this is an example in the kingdom, we get a dedicated fund. Basically, we get a group goes defunct, their funds come to the kingdom. It's set in a dedicated fund for 2 years, and then after 2 years, it can be moved over into the general fund of the kingdom if the group has not been refunded. Crown and travel fund can be budgeted from the general fund. And this can be approved. The Coronet can use funds indicated for the upcoming rain for the following events: Gulf Wars and Penzic War, regardless of crown attendance, plus in-kingdom events where the crown is not in attendance. Basically, they can get reimbursement for that. That. Let's move to the next one. Okay, basically, anytime you cut a check, it will be sent to an individual or a business. You cannot make, no disbursements will be made by cash. That includes refunds. And the disbursements can be done electronically via ACH. The 600 per annum, I apologize, I did not fix that. That has changed. That is now 2,000 per annum. Are required for a W-9. I'm going to touch W-9 for a brief second. W-9 should be requested at any time for a vendor, regardless of what the amount is that you're paying them. Why? Because if the IRS comes in and asks to see the W-9s on our records, they can look at anybody's W-9. It does not matter if they were required to get a 1099 at the end of the year. You need to have that record on file. W-9s must be requested. If you do not, I'm going to state this, I'm going to be very clear about this. If you know that they would not be required to get a 1099, still request the W-9. You need to have that form. If they do not know what it is, tell them they need to provide one. If they need help with it, let me know and I will help them. But a W-9 is required. Keep them. You can CC them up to me because I have to provide them all to the, keep them and make note of how much they have a little spreadsheet, how much you had to pay them, because at the end of the year, we've got to send all this information up to society so they can issue 1099s. So W-9s is important. Cash advances, you must document these, and please, I discourage people not to do cash advances because it's just it becomes a problem if you give people in cash in advance and then they never provide receipts. That's a problem. So it will be recorded as a receivable. So basically you tell them, it's like, I'm giving you a cash advance, so that's great, but you'll be held responsible for that amount of money if you cannot provide receipts. So, and you should reconcile it within 60 days of the disbursement. So don't ever give a cash advance more than 60 days, 30 days before an event, because you basically want to give it to them the month before when they need to take care of it. And then they have the event, and then they should be able to provide the receipts for that. So please be aware of that. You do not keep, nobody can keep petty cash funds. Checks must be made out to a person or business, never out to cash. Very simple. Cash receipts, basically. Question? Just sound okay. Cash receipts shall include, but are not limited to, income of any types, money collected from advertised fundraising endeavors, donations, or money from the sale of goods purchased with group funds. Now, cash receipts of any type must be deposited in the appropriate account no later than.
Still not playing audio.
Your sound is on.
Yeah, it shows it's playing audio, but it's not playing audio.
We can hear you. Hello. Can somebody mute him? Thank you. This no later than 48 hours after receipt by a group officer, account signatory, or designated paid member. This is not feasible, and we've already discussed this with society, because 48 hours to get to cash is a little, and I stress this, a little ridiculous, because most people work and banks are closed on Sunday and holidays and all that. So that is not feasible. So they've agreed to a week. I believe that's what we agreed to, was a week. It's been a hot minute. Undeposited fund cannot be used to reimburse anybody. You cannot take the cash and hand it out to anybody. Cash is never sent out. We want documentation that you reimburse somebody. If you give somebody cash and they come back and say, oh, here's my receipt for this, it's like, I already paid you for that. Well, I never got anything. That's why we do checks, or we do an ACH, online payment, with a form. To use an online credit card acceptance services by SCA branches is restricted by the society. You cannot use a personal credit card. You are not to use the personal credit card acceptance account of an individual or other business under any circumstances. So you can't, oh, Joe's got a credit card account and we can, charge that, and he can. Don't do that. Do not do that. I love this. Minors cannot serve as the primary or sole gate attendant at any event. They may assist at gate under the oversight of an adult member in good standing, who will be ultimately responsible for the accounting of the funds. At least one paid adult member of the SCA in good standing must be present and in charge anywhere SCA money is collected. So good rule of thumb, it's like, kid wants to sit gate, have them workbook, have them head outside tokens. Do not let them handle cash if they are a minor. If they're an adult minor and their adult parent is sitting there, but they will ultimately be responsible. So please, for the sake of all that's good, just keep an adult paid member as your box. It's just handing money. It's not that scary. Basically, you must be a paid member to oversee gate functions in an event. That is where the money is collected in the name of the SCA. Site owners may additionally oversee gate operations. But basically, ultimately, funds that are collected in the name of the SCA must remain with an authorized paid SCA member who does not have a financial or material interest in the ownership of the site itself. Again, no funds may be dispersed from gate receipts. Do not. Gate registration records will be collected via standardized gate sheets approved by the Kingdom Exchequer. Gate receipts, basically the money and the records of who signed in, should be kept separate. Quick explanation: insurance purposes. If we lose the cash, we can file with our insurance with the records of who signed in and appeal to get that money, so you don't lose money. The group doesn't lose money. If we lose the paperwork but we have the cash, hey, we've got the cash. But always keep them separate. Everybody knows a story about somebody putting it in the microwave in their RV, and it burned down and they lost both. There it is. Gate receipts will be deposited into an SCA account with 5 business days following the close of the event. Business days. And I stress business days because you have, if it is a 3-day weekend, a holiday weekend like Memorial Day or Labor Day, Monday is not a business day. And I don't include Saturday as a business day. Business days are the regular business days. Related persons are not permitted to solely control gate income, i.e. do not have 2 people who are related sitting gate and box. Donations of liquid assets via cash or check to the Kingdom account, independent or event related donations, should be presented to the Kingdom Exchequer with a written indication of the intended purpose, including reference to any applicable dedicated funds plus acceptable secondary purposes. You want to hand me a check for $500 and you want it dedicated for Crown travel, that I'll say that's great. What is the secondary acceptable purpose for this if the Crown doesn't use it? You have to have explanation. Again, document. Right now, our income, the income intended for the College Herald should be written to the Kingdom with reference to the College of Herald. We are now doing that through PayPal, so that is sent to the Kingdom. The Kingdom pays the College of Herald, so that's kind of separate. To do electronic reservations payments, permission to use electronic payment system comes from the Society and the Exchequer and the Board. Permission for electronic funds transfers requires society approval. That's irrelevant. Kingdom Seneschal and Exchequer must require electronic transfers. Refund requests must be received prior to 10 business days before the event. That's a little obscene. I'm going to fix that. Reports for this function are defined by SC officers, including the Corporate Exchequer, Society Chancellor of the Exchequer, and Kingdom Chancellor of the Exchequer. If you're doing electronic reservations and payments, this is basically usually a variance at this point in time. And upon establishment of this functionality, it will be an independent office within the Kingdom of Ansteorra, and then will report as a deputy to the Kingdom Chancellor of the Exchequer. Trailers. This is very important. It is short, it is sweet, and this is the part that if somebody within your group you're going to make a deputy as for hauling the trailer, because they have to be a warranted deputy of the Exchequer to do this. This is the section you need to worry about. Trailers owned by the SCA, i.e. the group, are to be used for storing and transporting SCA property to and from SCA functions. Trailers owned by the SCA may not be used for strictly personal purposes by the members of the branch. Individuals towing a trailer owned by the SCA or one of its branches shall be a paid member in good standing and tow at their own risk. Agreements to store and tow the trailer must be made in writing in advance between the paid member, warranted as a deputy of the Exchequer, storing or towing the trailer for each trip, and the branch owning the trailer. Each agreement should include specific specifications of timeframes and calculation of any expense reimbursement. Each trip should be considered round trip, and the member towing the trailer is responsible for its return at the end of the trip unless otherwise specified in the agreement. Short and simple. Your trailer, any SCA-owned trailer is to be used for SCA functions only, not into personal use. If somebody is going to tow the trailer, they must be a paid member in good standing. That's simple, and they tow it at their own risk. They have to be warranted. They do not have to go through the entire policy. They just need to know this part. And please make sure they have insurance for trailers. That is not on here, but it will be added in Kingdom policy. This does not apply to U-Hauls or anything like that, because U-Haul has their own separate insurance policy that you can, the group can purchase for it. Sorry, I only got 50 more. Stop. Okay. This is the additional. Trailers must be loaded in compliance with the trailer's maximum gross weight. So you need to know that. And maximum tongue weight and the load balancing instructions. And you must have a vehicle rated for that type of trailer. So if somebody's towing your group's trailer to Gulf Wars for you, because they're taking the group's pavilion and the tables and whatever, if there's an additional room after everything that is for the group is put in there, they can put personal property in there, and it is loaded at their own risk. Very simple, very short and sweet. Items 1 through 5 are what needs to be taught to any deputy who is going to be pulling a group's trailer. Personal trailers that are carrying groups items. I have a trailer and I'm going to take the Barony's tables to an event. I take that on as own personal risk. So please be aware of the difference. Anything on the group's trailer must be a member and paid member of good standing, and they must be in compliance with towing the trailer with the appropriate vehicle and not overloading it and not creating damage to the property. Basically, all assets to be purchased must be approved by the appropriate financial committee. Bid requests for purchases over $300 must include an indication of the funding allocated via the financial committee for this purpose. Purchases over $1,000 should include answers to the inventory inspector expenditure justification survey, item H, and the answers must be posted via the Kingdom Exchequer or designated representative to formal and public forums of communication within the kingdom. Basically, if it's over $300, it's got to be approved by the financial committee. Bid requests for if we get the chairs redone for the kingdom. Over 1,000, that's usually the crowns. So this is required to be submitted via certain functions. Between $300 and $100, it's a financial committee will approve it. Anything over 1,000 goes to the general populace to be notified of what we're purchasing, and if they have people can state any objections or questions they have. You must keep your inventory on file. The functionality of acquiring and according gifts to be given at the crown heir's discretion shall remain under the purview of the crown, and provided that all applicable laws and policies are followed. Requests for reimbursement will only be accepted via the crown/heirs. Kingdom property management standard operations are found in this section and is in a document Annex B. Very specific. Routine. Hey, I got it. Maintenance of the kingdom trailer should include checking electrical and mechanical bearings, mechanical components, and updated vehicle tags. Basically, it needs to be maintained on a regular schedule, especially the bearings. Donations of physical items to the kingdom meet the following definition. The donation is not paid for with the kingdom funds. Anything created without prior written approval will be greatly accepted as a donation to the kingdom. After July 2020, items for that are donated must have instructions for disposal submitted with the donation. Should the financial committee decide to dispose of a donated item, a significant attempt should be made to follow these instructions. Any items donated to the kingdom should include as many answers to the inventory and expenditure justification survey. Basically, the inventory and expenditure survey indicates whether the following or greater lesser the state have been consulted about this project. Star Principal Herald to make sure it's not in sumptuary or ensure correct usage of Kingdom Armory. The Exchequer to prevent financial concerns. Kingdom Chamberlain to protect project redundancy. So basically we're saying make sure it's heraldically correct. Make sure the Exchequer has there's no financial concern because you're donating something that could mess with our IRS standing as a nonprofit, or the Chamberlain because you decided you wanted to make a bunch of silk banners for the kingdom and we just got in a new batch and we don't need them. So it's that there's a reason why that happened. Any other kingdom that may have occasionally used, maintain, or be represented by the project to ensure relevance or timelines. Basically, if you're donating something that would be relevant to that person, they can be consulted regarding the use of it. And if they need for that, do we need this item? When and how will it be used? And its frequency, who will use this item? If there's special care and upkeep of it, oh, we got new crowns. How do we take care of those? Because some of those crowns require very specific care and maintenance. If it's leather, how do we take care of that? Is it item easily transported? Is it large? Who will be responsible for the care and upkeep of the kingdom? This item, the Kingdom Chamberlain, the champion, the crown, all that. Disposal of kingdom-owned property. Basically, the financial committee and the Kingdom Chamberlain will have the final authority on disposal of property or regalia, providing a written report of the disposal of any items to the Kingdom Exchequer. We'll try to return the item to the original artist or donator, public auction the item with all proceeds to return to the Kingdom Chamberlain's office fund within the Kingdom account, retain in storage for use in historical displays, or donate to a branch within the Kingdom. These are options for what can be done with a Kingdom-owned property or regalia. Prohibit activities. Raffles and online auctions are prohibited. Raffles and online auctions, we cannot do it online. we cannot purchase fireworks. The purchase of professional fireworks services is permitted, but we cannot purchase or sell or have a group owned fireworks or its representative. To do that, you must request permission from the board. The branch must request approval from the Kingdom Seneschal and the Kingdom Exchequer, who will contact their society superiors for instructions. You can't use cryptocurrency or digital assets. I'm not even going to go into that. That's self-explanatory. I think you have to have a formal review of books that happens every 2 years or every time the office changes. Basically, it's to monitor the actions within the groups. The reviewer, branch reviews are performed by any warranted exchequer except the Kingdom Exchequer. We have a training deputy that is responsible for that. That office is open, and they must be warranted. There must be a witness. Reviewers must be completed in conjunction with the exchequer of the group and entity. So usually those happen when the new exchequer steps in and you're reviewing the previous exchequer's work. And you must so basically the witness can also be the group seneschal if for some reason the group's going away and you're trying to wrap things up. Review content. The date of the last formal review, date of the last financial officer change, and it can go back to 3 years prior, back to January 1, 3 years prior, so that at least 2 complete years of activities included. So if I were to be audited today, we could audit 3 previous years. So we could do 25, 24, or 23. You have to have written results and a written record of the review of findings and action plans are to be entered in society account review results. Basically, they tell you, hey, this is screwed up. You need to fix this. And the original of the signed form goes to the society exchequer or society exchequer for Kingdom accounts. Signed form goes to the Kingdom Exchequer, or in this case, my deputy, or to me. And you can, the report summary pages may be printed in the branch newsletter. Copies of the signed review findings go to the financial files, the seneschal, and the reviewer. 3 people should be getting copies of that. Results, records, and distribution continue should also go to the outgoing exchequer and should go to the financial committee members. Your financial committee records are property of the SCA Inc. and made available for examination by any paid member in good standing upon a reasonable request at a time and place agreed upon by the Chancellor of the Exchequer and the requester. This is not, they cannot do a formal review. The scope of informal reviews of books should follow that included in a formal review. That is not, it does not substitute the formal review. If somebody paid member asks to see your financials and wants to look at certain things, they can be shown to them because we are a nonprofit. We are an open nonprofit. So basically these meetings, that does not substitute for the formal review of books. The formal review of books follows certain things and we look at certain items. But the informal review should include, should follow that included. The scope of an informal review should basically follow what would be a formal review. It doesn't replace it, if that makes sense. So if a paid member of your populace asks to review the books, they can review the books, but that does not constitute your review of books as per the office of the exchequer. That is not considered approved by me. This policy will be reviewed every few years. Kingdom events. All Kingdom events shall carry a Kingdom title, designation, funding, or insignia shall be voted upon. Shoot, I'm almost done. Kingdom events all have profit splits going on. Branches should that host a recurring Kingdom event as dividing are required to contribute a portion of the net profit to the Kingdom account. Recurring Kingdom events that are funded entirely via the Kingdom of Ansteorra account must be hosted either via SCA branch within the Kingdom or an approved event steward and gate coordinator who reside within the Kingdom. Profit splits for both of these categories are delineated in Kingdom law. We will place preference on a bid made by a branch. You have to have a primary area event steward and a gate coordinator for a Kingdom event. The Seneschal is responsible for oversight. The final event and all other financials are handled by the Kingdom Exchequer. Complimentary site fees will be offered to the following individuals in the attendance at the Kingdom event: the Crown and their heirs, current royalty from any SCA Kingdom, and the Sanguine Highnesses of Wittenheim. That is Kingdom law. It's not in our financial policy, but that is Kingdom law. Recommended amounts of Kingdom bids, any additional insurance you need, any golf cart insurance you might need. The absence of established event specific policy, the default shall be no refunds. Family max will be equivalent to 3 adult registrations. Family max is defined as 2 legal adults over the age of 18 who live full-time in the same household, and any number of minor adult or minor children. Other adults or children 18 or older, even if in residence in the household, cannot register under the family max. Minors and children fees schedules, including discounts for minors and children fee schedule, including discounts for minors 15 years and older. Kingdom sponsored publications and social spaces at Gulf Force and Pennsic may be funded via the Kingdom account. Control of these funds may be transferred to the Crown after the Financial Committee has approved the budget. Variances to portions of this policy may be granted by the Society Chancellor of the Exchequer on a case-by-case basis or limited time basis, subject to review by the Board of Directors. See pages up. It's in the Exchequer's handbook. It's actually page 25 and 26. I apologize. I missed the 2. These are questions, and did I hit? Yeah, I hit the 30-minute mark. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any further questions, I apologize. I should have asked that this be a 2-hour class. It is not. If you have further questions, please feel free to reach out to me or attend the regional the meeting after this afternoon. I don't remember what time it was. After lunch, I know. And I'll be happy to answer any questions then.